All right, 2 conference games for you on a Friday night. I'll take it. A lot of complaining the last couple of years about some of this conference expansion and realignment and playoffs and all this crap about TV deals and all that. And really, one of the positives I think that has come out of all this that not a lot of people talk about is it's going to give us a lot of good Friday night games. There's a couple of conferences that have TV contracts requiring some Friday night games here, and we're only a few weeks into the season, and there's been a couple of Fridays already that have given us some really good games. And I think that's the case again tonight with an ACC matchup and a Big Ten matchup. Stanford travels coast to coast to take on Syracuse in an ACC game, and Nebraska is going to host Illinois. Those games come on at 7:30 and 8. I'm going to be live tonight starting around 7 o'clock. I'm going to watch both of these games, so I figured why not go live? We can watch them together, hang out, watch the games, talk college football for a few hours tonight to kind of get us ready for a full day's worth of action tomorrow. And I think both of these games could be entertaining and interesting games, too. Let's start with the first one, Stanford on the road at Syracuse. I like what I've seen from Syracuse so far. Brand new head coach, brought in a lot of new players through the portal, and the quarterback situation is getting very interesting. Kyle McCord, he's off to a great start. He through 2 games, he's thrown for 700 yards already, like eight touchdowns, only 1 interception. He might be better than Will Howard. I mean, I don't want to trigger the Ohio State fans here for no reason, but the Lord knows they don't really need a reason to get triggered. But Kyle McCord's off to a really good start. He, of course, was at Ohio State last year, got kind of pushed out the door into the portal, winds up at Syracuse, who's got a brand new coaching staff with Fran Brown up from Georgia. And they've looked pretty good. They got what I think is a decent win over a pretty good Georgia Tech team a couple of weeks ago, right? Behind a really good game from Kyle McCord. Stanford, on the other hand, I don't have a lot of faith in Stanford. Now, they have looked okay at times offensively this year, which has been a little surprising to me, actually. They've got a quarterback that can run around some. And if you go back and watch that Syracuse-Georgia Tech game, that's really what gave Syracuse the most problems was Georgia Tech quarterback Haynes King and sort of, his ability to extend plays and scramble around and things like that. So if the Stanford quarterback can sort of get that going, they might be able to keep it close here on the road against Syracuse. I have kind of an overall philosophy about weekday games in college football, which is I never pick the road team in terms of betting anyway. So like Syracuse is an 8.5 point home favorite here. There's no way I would bet Stanford plus 8.5. I just wouldn't do it. Even if I didn't like Syracuse minus 8.5, then I just wouldn't bet the game. Or I'd find some other way to bet it, like the point total or something. I just don't ever take the road team in a weekday game. I just don't do it. But Syracuse is an 8.5 point favorite at home here. I just don't think that's enough. Defensively, Stanford has not been impressive to me at all. And while I do think Stanford will score some points here, because Syracuse isn't some kind of lockdown defense either, but they're at home. It's during the week. I like Syracuse offense more than I like Stanford. Quarterback Kyle McCord is playing at a high level, and he's got some weapons there. I think Syracuse can win this game at home on a Friday night by more than the 8.5. I'm going to take the fruit and lay the 8.5 points. Fruit over the tree in the 7:30 game tonight. Now at 8 o'clock, maybe an even better game here. Illinois on the road at Nebraska. Both of these teams are undefeated. Both of these teams are ranked. Nebraska has a win over Colorado a couple of weeks ago. Illinois beat Kansas early in the year. Looked like a really good win at the time. Kansas, of course, since then has gone on to lose to UNLV. And Jaden Daniels, the Kansas quarterback, is just off to a horrendous start. And whatever the sort of high-end expectation that you had for Kansas might have been this year, they're not getting anywhere close to that with Jaden Daniels playing like he has been. They've been a disappointment. But Illinois has got a good defense like they do every year under Brett Bielema. The last 2 or 3 years, they've been pretty good defensively. Now, they lost a lot of talent on the interior of their defensive line from last year to this year, and that has shown early in the season this year. They have not been great against the run. In fact, their yards per carry, defensively, their yards against per carry is not good at all. And that could spell trouble for Illinois in this game here because Nebraska, for all the different things they kind of do well, the thing they do the best is sort of line of scrimmage, ground and pound, kind of phone booth football. And I expect to see a lot of that from Nebraska tonight. Dylan Raiola has played well at quarterback, but in the end, he is a true freshman, and we have to keep that in mind. If Nebraska is able to line up and just pound the ball at Illinois and they can't stop it, then we don't need any heroics or fireworks from freshman quarterback Dylan Raiola, even though I think he's capable of delivering some of those. I think Nebraska's just been the better team. They have been good defensively. They have been good against the run, against the pass. They're a very disciplined team. Matt Rule's got a track record that speaks for itself when it comes to improvement in year 2. And I like what I've seen out of Nebraska this year. Now, this is expected to be an extremely low-scoring game. Both of these teams, these are two of the slowest teams in college football. By slow, I don't mean the speed of the individual players. I mean the pace at which these two teams run their offense is really, really slow. If you look at the, what do they call it? Plays per second. Is that what they call it? Or plays per minute, I guess they call it. How fast they run one play after the next, basically. Both Nebraska and Illinois rank in the hundreds in that category. These are two offenses that are in no hurry at all to run the next play, right? Both of these teams understand that the strength of their team is on the defensive side of the ball and sort of along the lines of scrimmage. And so they have catered their offense to that in terms of the speed in which they play offense. So possessions will be limited in this game. Nebraska's a 7.5-point favorite at home. I do think Nebraska is capable of winning this game by more than 7.5. I just hate that number, 7.5. If I could get it at 7 and kind of take my chances there, definitely at 6.5. 7.5 is just not a good number to lay in football. But like I mentioned, I refuse to bet the road team in a weeknight game. So even though I'm not in love with Nebraska minus 7.5, there's no way I'm taking Illinois plus 7.5. Now, I do think Nebraska wins the game. So for those of you who don't care about the betting angle of it, there you go. I think Nebraska wins the game. But I've decided to go a different way in terms of the bet I'm going to make on this game here. I don't like the number 7.5 with Nebraska, and I'm not betting the road team Illinois. So what I've decided to do here, I'm going to kind of buck the sort of trend a little. This game is expected to be very low scoring. The over-under when this game came out was around 45, which is really, really low for college football. Most college football lines are in the mid-50s to 60s. The over-under for this one came out at 45. The over-under is the expected total number of points scored combined by both teams. It's gone down from 45 to now 42.5. And that's just way too low for me to take. 45 or 46 probably would have been the number to get this thing at if you wanted to play the under. Could it go under 42.5? Could, but that's just such a low number. I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to go with Nebraska's total points scored in this game. Nebraska's team total right now is at 24.5. That's basically, 3 touchdowns and a couple of field goals, or 4 touchdowns, whatever, 24.5 points. I think Nebraska scores over 24.5. In fact, I think they might get to 30. I could see Nebraska winning this game somewhere, in the neighborhood of 28-10, something like that, 28-13. I'm going to take the Nebraska team total over 24.5. So there you go. I think Nebraska beats Illinois. I think Syracuse beats Stanford. So I like both the home teams to win the game outright tonight. The bets I'm going to go ahead and make, I'm going to take Syracuse minus 8.5. I think they can win by 10. And I'm going to take Nebraska to score more than 24.5 points. All right, I'll be live tonight at 7. We'll live stream, hang out, watch some college football. Come join us. We'll have a really good time. But until then, have a good morning.